Today, we're looking at Robert Oster's Spearmint. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Robert Oster's Spearmint is a green ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a D-like alpha with a medium nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we go to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is a chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see this purple across the bottom, very surprising. But this purple, this very nice bright green, and then a super rich blue across the top. Now the one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And the only real difference that we can see between these two chromatographies is that there's a line across the bottom that looks like it wants to hold on. It's just a little bit darker and more there, but not too much else is a difference. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pen. Now I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it handles itself very well. It does go to be about a fine medium, but it's all completely readable, making me feel safe using it in a note-taking situation. Water completely reactivates and is pulling this ink entirely off the page. Now, not all of it is gone, but all of it will go away with just water, as that's only 30 seconds that there was a drop of water on it. Pen Flush does everything that water does and nothing more, and the 1/3 bleach solution very aggressively removes all of the ink from the paper, but there would be no need to use that to get it out of your pen. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with a realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Robert Oster's Spearmint has a viscosity of 2.67, making it normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with a realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Robert Oster's Spearmint has an average dry time of 18 seconds, making it again normal. Now let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X 450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X 750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen. It shows us spots of shading, like at the bottom of the P in Spearmint, or the M in Spearmint are much lighter than the rest of the word. Nice. A looks a little bit darker, so we have spots of shading. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and it has spots of shading, like the H in the K in quick, the F in fox, the P in jumps. We get letters that are darker than the rest. 10 seconds to dry. The medium is a slightly lighter tone than the extra fine. Unusual, but that's what it does. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and some very, very nice shading, like quick starts dark, gets lighter, gets darker at the I, lighter at the C, darker at the K. It's light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, back and forth. Beautiful. And brown starts dark and works its way light. Fox starts light and works its way dark. Beautiful. 18 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine shows us no color variation, but we do get a little bit. The scrubby of the medium shows us a fair amount, and we do get plenty in here. The smear test says you could likely recover it if you smeared while you were writing. Tomoe River, no bleeding, but yes, we get ghosting. I think this is the best tone this ink gives. It looks spectacular on Tomoe River. It really does. The 1.1 has no feather, spread. It halos all over the place. Beautiful halo. No sheen and no shade. The extra fine is slightly lighter than the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shading, 19 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine.
The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It took 40 seconds to dry. Beautiful tones, though. I could wait 40 seconds because the tone is so beautiful. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we, didn't really get any. And the smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shading. The extra fine is a slightly lighter tone than the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and it does offer spots of shading. Like the beginning of the B in brown is darker, the K in quick is darker, the F in fox is darker. All darker than the rest of the words. Now, it's not tremendously darker, but it is a little bit darker. So the shading is quite subtle. Subtle. Had a problem with that word. 8 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and the shading looks better here than it did with the extra fine. Quick starts dark, gets lighter, and gets much darker to the K. Brown starts dark and gets light. Fox starts light and gets dark. Dog is a nice light word, especially next to lazy. Now, lazy in itself isn't a much darker word. It's like a mid-tone word, but the looks very dark. So beautiful stuff, and 13 seconds to dry. Now, the scrubby of the extra fine, if you look far left to far right, you see some color variation, and we get about that color variation. Medium shows a lot more, and we did get a lot more color variation in the medium. The smear test you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. Moji paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shading. The extra fine is a significantly lighter tone than the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and it has spots of shading. Like the looks significantly darker than over. Lazy starts dark and works its way light. Brown starts dark and works its way light. Beautiful. 6 seconds to dry. Medium is a significantly darker tone than extra fine, but nowhere near as dark as the 1.1. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shading. No shading here whatsoever. 8 seconds to dry. Now, the scrubby of the extra fine showed us more color variation than we got in the writing sample, but we did get plenty of color variation up there. The medium shows us none, and we got none. And the smear test, you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Now, this has been a very well-performing ink, so I said, let's give you some crappy paper to give a shot to. This is the Word Notebook. Now, Word Notebook, it seeped very deep into the page, but it did not bleed through. I do not know that you could use the back of the page, but the other side is this is a pocket-sized notebook, so if you had to jot some notes down, this would probably let you use the back of the page. It wouldn't say no. Doesn't touch the page underneath, though. Ignoring the scrubby where I put it on stupid thick. Just don't do scrubbies in your pocket notebooks. The medium has spread, and it has feather. It's not particularly great here. No halo, no sheen, and no shade. It's not the greatest performance. And this holds out here. On the extra fine, it spreads. And it has feathering, tiny little feathers all over. But again, for a pocket-sized notebook, jot some notes down on the go. This would be perfectly fine. And 1 second to dry. The scrubby showed some color variation, but we got none. Sorry, the extra fine had no feather spread. It had feather, had no spread, no halo sheen, no shade. Sorry. 1 second to dry. The scrubby shows us some color variation, but we didn't get any. And the smear test, you can't smear it. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, smear, nothing moved. So I think this is a really good ink for this notebook, regardless of this. I don't think this would stop me in just taking some notes. 28-pound premium copy paper. Ignoring the scrubby where I put it on stupid thick, there's really no bleeding. I can see spots where it's deeper in the page with a medium, but that's about it. And there's no ghosting. The medium at the top, it has no spread, but it has tiny little feathers all over it. Not something that would stop me from using it. The extra fine, no halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine, why'd we go blurry? Man, I went to blurry speed there all of a sudden. The extra fine is the same tone as the medium. The extra fine has no spread, but it has tiny feathering all over it. Not something that would truly stop you from being able to use this in a work environment like this. Not a big deal. but it does have tiny feathers all over. No halo, no sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry. The scrubby shows color variation, but we got none. And the smear test, you could not smear this if you smeared while you were writing, because I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, smear, and look at how little moved. Barely any. Beautiful. That's all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Robert Oster's Spearmint, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Now, I wanted a very nice orange, but I found an orange that's peach leaning in Diamine's Coral. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Robert Oster's Spearmint? I think this is a very nice darker green than I expected. It can shade pretty well, but it shades best when using it in dry stubs. Then the shading that I got was absolutely top notch. Thanks for watching.